everybody. My name is Jacob Gorski, and I want to welcome you to the Gayest Generation, where we hear LGBTQ elders speak for themselves. Every episode, we sit down with a different member of the LGBTQ community who laid the foundation for the freedoms we have today. Their stories make noise where there is silence, and that silence has lived for far too long. It's about time we let their voices fill the room. In this episode, we get to know Washtenaw County drag legend Maxi Chanel. We'll hear about her experiences growing up in Nigeria, what it was like to be a part of Ann Arbor's soon-to-be-forgotten gay club scene, and the purpose of drag, which is all the more important during these grim times. Due to adult situations and language, viewer discretion is advised. This is the Gayest Generation.
Hi, my name is Mark Shields, but everybody calls me Maxi Chanel. Since I started doing drag, my name has been Maxi. I have a hard time telling people that my name is Mark. So, Maxi Chanel, I am 54 years old. I am the mother of the infamous House of Chanel of Ann Arbor.
Yes, ma'am.
And glad to be here.
Wonderful. So it's always kind of funny. How do you start a conversation like this? And there's no place better than the beginning, right?
Right.
So talk a little bit about where you were born.
I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I, shortly after I was born, moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan with my mom. When I was 5, she remarried to a Nigerian man, Dr. Ernest Fubara, and all together we moved to Port Harcourt, Nigeria when I was 7 years old.
Wow. And for our listeners, can you talk a little bit about what it was like to grow up in Nigeria? Like, what is an average day being a kid in Nigeria looks like?
An average day for a kid in Nigeria, it depends. Like when I was young, it would be, elementary school. My father was very active in church. So, of course, I was in the choir. So we would have school, we'd get out of school, we'd come home, we'd eat, we'd go to choir practice. After choir practice, we were free to play around with our friends in the neighborhood until street lights came on, just like here. And as soon as the street lights were on, we had to be in the house. Mm-hmm. At which point we would, have dinner and, watch some television or watch a movie with the whole family and then go to bed for school the next day, unless the next day was a weekend. So that was when I was in elementary school. Typical day for me when I was in high school was much different because I was in a boarding school. So I was in a boarding school where you slept with, I want to say it was probably like 20 people in a cabin what do they call them? I think we were houses then as well. So there were several, houses on the campus. We each had our own color. We each had our own prefect. A typical day would be waking up super early in the morning, and the culture is different there. So, underclassmen had to, be subservient to upperclassmen. So, we each had within our dorm, we each had a upperclassmen that we worked with, and then we would fetch water for our baths in the morning. So I'd have to fetch my water for my bath and his water for his bath. We had to get showered and everything, and then we go to breakfast. You know, the bell would ring for breakfast, go to that, and then we had maybe like 15 minutes after breakfast to do our own thing, and then we had to be in class.
So you were born in Louisiana, if I remember correctly.
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Moved to
Yes.
Ann Arbor, moved to Nigeria. During this time, where are you at with your own identity?
I mean,
Do you
where I was, okay, so there's no like, for me, I was just who I was.
Sure.
I was just who I was. When it comes to sexuality, I didn't really find out definitely. I mean, I always knew that I was homosexual, but I never really like practiced that, so to speak, until I got into high school, boarding school. Well, actually, maybe I did before. I want to say like middle school age, you know.
Sure, as one does.
Yeah.
You know,
Middle
finding
school
out about
age,
this and that.
You know, in Nigeria, there's also a culture that, you know, people wouldn't expect here, but that you have house help, you know, like house boys or house girls or, you know, gardeners, drivers, all that kind of stuff. So we had a houseboy that I messed around with when I was in middle school.
Oh,
yeah.
Scandalous.
Yeah.
And how was your identity perceived as a child? You made mention that.
So I'm pretty much throughout that whole time, elementary school through high school, all the way up till now, I've pretty much been the same person that I am, except I didn't like, you know, I didn't even have an idea of being openly gay. I just was who I was, and people either accepted it or they made fun of it, you know, or, or go ahead, baby.
How did your family accept or not accept this part of you?
See, that was the thing. I didn't even realize that there was something different about me until I got out into the world, i.e. boarding school. Because my family, the only person that I had a hard time with was my stepfather. And generally that was because, well, I guess in the process of being who I was, I did a lot of things that got on his nerves, you know? But everybody else looked at it as, oh, that's just, you know, Mark being Mark. And that
would be some of those things? Yeah,
that would be like, you know, running around, not being where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there. You know, I was awfully fond of wearing my mom's clothes. You know, he never caught into that at all. You know, that was a couple of the things that I would do that would get on his nerves. I mean, I would always be like hanging out with the girls and, you know, playing with Barbies and, you know, doing things like that. And he just, you know, he never made it completely clear that that was what his problem was. I didn't really realize until later that that was what his problem was, because my sisters, my mom, everybody, my aunts, my uncles, they all just took me for what I was, and they were just wonderful to me.
That is incredible. And I think that just accepting, you know, your child for who they are, whether they're this, that, or the other. Such a blessing, right?
Such a blessing. I mean, and I didn't even realize I was as blessed as I was until much later, hearing stories from other people, other friends, you know, people my age, people younger than me, you know, talking about their coming out stories, and they're telling these horror stories of like getting kicked out or, you know, being sent to church all the time so that, you know, they can pray the gay away, you know, that kind of thing. And I didn't even realize how lucky I had it until much later.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm of a very similar experience, and I have a hard time putting into words. Looking back on that in retrospect, I have a hard time putting in words how incredibly grateful I am to be given the opportunity to be myself.
Yes. And I mean, that was just me as a regular boy. But then once I became a drag queen, my family was really crazy about it. Like, one of my cousins came and saw me at the Necto, and then she ran back and told her mother, and then, you know, my aunt told her sister, and it just went like wildfire through the family. Everybody's like, oh my God, you know, we gotta go see. So, like, they've been so incredibly, like, even past the coming out and all that stuff, like, me being a drag queen, they were just so excited about it. You know, my aunt likes to like save up jewelry that she thinks is like too big for her, and she's like, "Here you go. I saved this for you. Maybe you could use it for one of your shows." Like, I've been so blessed.
And not to get ahead of ourselves, because I'm going to ask you every little question about your drag career.
Okay.
Tell us about when you moved back to America after your time in Nigeria.
Woo. Moving back to the States was way more of a culture shock than it was me moving to Africa. Because I was just young. You know, I was 7. You know, you're open to anything, you know?
Yeah.
When you're that age. I was 17 when I came back. That was 10 years I was in Africa. And when I came back, my mother had passed away, and I was moving back to live with her mother, my grandmother, and my grandfather in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a culture shock. Because my whole, you know, life up until that point, I knew about racism and I knew about, you know, the civil rights movement, but only through stories my mom told me, or, you know, we watched Roots. Roots was really big at that time, and I was like just so shocked as to how that could even be a thing, because I'd never experienced it. And then I came back to Fayetteville, North Carolina, and full force, in your face, experienced it. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. But fortunately for me, I got along with everybody because I was such an oddity. And I wasn't like, I wasn't unabashed about how I walked down the halls or who I was, what I had on. I didn't care what people think. So people didn't have any chinks to like mess with me. The only people that messed with me, I found out, were guys that wanted to get with me. Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that, because I had talked about this before, that a lot of the bullying that I think gay people
the guys
endure.
that would bully me. Okay, I came back from the States. I had finished high school in Nigeria, but I had done so terribly. You know, I just failed all my classes, really. Like, so, you know, the counselor, when I come to school, is like, looking at my papers, and he's like, you know, with the educational system in Africa is so much more advanced than it is here. Because, I mean, seriously, like in high school there, it's pretty much like what you deal with in college here. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just a professor, he lays out your plans, he like gives you a lecture or whatever, and then you go on and you have to read the material and you have to do the work. It's not like you're in class doing the work together. He just gives you what you need to know, and then you have to like work from there. So the counselor's like, yeah, you know, with the educational system you went through, you could go to, you know, freshman in college, or I would send you back to high school. But there's compulsory things that you have to go through in high school here, so you'd have to go back to being a junior. So I was like, talked it over with my grandmother, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to get thrown into this school system that I don't know anything about and be behind. So I'm going to go back to being a junior. Mm-hmm. And my grandmother, who was a teacher all her life, she was like, I think that was probably the best idea. So I go back to high school as a junior. So I walk into Reed Ross High School in Fayetteville, North Carolina. My first day, I'm wearing bell-bottom jeans, a dashiki, and my hair is in an afro.
Yes.
Yes. And people are looking at me walking down the hall like, what the hell is that? You have to remember, this is 1983. You know, there were the punk kids, there were the preppies, you know. Oh, God. So everybody's like, wow, what is going on? So I was such an oddity that I actually made really great friends right off the bat. Like, head cheerleader was my best friend. So, you know, I would get in and have lunch with the girls, and everybody's like, whoa, you know, you're sitting with the cheerleaders? How does that happen, you know? And then all the guys are like, you know, you need to hook me up, you know, da-da-da. So I had a great in there. I was in also show choir. I got into show choir, and surprisingly, there were tons of the football players that were in show choir as well. So I was, you know, I was friends with the cheerleaders. As a result, I was friends with a lot of the football players, you know, and I was me. So like everybody gravitated. The gay kids that were at school, I was friends with, but I didn't identify because I knew that was like a hard road, you know. They got beaten up. They got bullied every day. And while I respectfully identified with them and really wanted to, I just knew I couldn't because I would be persecuted every day, all day, and I just didn't want to live my high school years like that. So I went back into the closet, which is crazy.
And I think what's so interesting about what you said is that your classmates didn't necessarily have a problem with you being the beautiful creature, flirty, flouncy, feminine person that you are.
Right.
Unless you had said, I am gay. Then they would have had a problem.
Yes, which is so crazy, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is so crazy because the gay kids that were at school that were out and proud, God bless their hearts, they were great people, but they just, you're in North Carolina. If you like somebody that says that they're gay, that makes you gay. You know what I mean? It's so stupid.
Guilty by association.
I hope that things have changed. When I was in North Carolina, they had no gay bar. They had one gay bar, and it was in a house that was like, it looked like it was boarded up and abandoned in the front. And when you went around the back, and then everything was there, you know, it opened up.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't know where you were going, you would think it was just an abandoned house and, you know, pass it by. But yeah, you had to go around the back way, secret way, and then boom, there was the whole gay bar. And recently I went back home, and now there's 2 gay bars. Like giant gay bars, like, you know, sound system, drag shows, all the works. Yeah.
Oh boy, so I missed the gay bar.
Yeah, so hopefully some of that, you know, ideology has changed because it was really hard for the gay kids at school. But what was funny was I was friends with them, and nobody had a problem because I did have a girlfriend, because I was friends with the football players and the cheerleaders, and, you know, I was in theater, I was in show choir and all that stuff, you know, and I mean, those should have been dead giveaways right there, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think there's something to say about if somebody, you just have an undeniable energy, you know what I'm saying? And people may or may not have been shocked by how you dressed, how you acted, whatever it might be, but there's something undeniable, there's something innate about the energy that you put out into the world where it's almost like, I dare you not to get into this, you know?
Right. I mean, the one thing with me too was, you know, growing up in Nigeria, my brothers, I guess they felt like, you know, if you're going to be this flouncy, you at least need to know how to defend yourself. And so my older brothers would like, we'd go to like the movies, and then we'd go see like all these kung fu movies and these Indian, you know, fight movies, spy movies, and all that kind of stuff. And all the way back home, they would just beat me up. They would beat me up all the way home until I started defending myself. And then when I started defending myself, then they were like, okay, now you're good. See, we just need to know that you're not going to just let people beat you up. Wow. You know? Yeah, so
tough love.
It was tough love, but it was definitely helpful because, you know, I do know how to defend myself now. And I'm the kind of person that, you know, I'm not going to let you just walk up and call me a faggot or say some derogatory shit. I'm not going to take it. You're going to have to back those words up. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I always carried myself.
Yeah.
You know, not really afraid. Yeah.
And you had made mention that you had not exactly expressed your sexuality in high school. Can you talk about the moment in which you did? Whether that's to your family members or whoever it might have been.
That was well after high school. Well, maybe a year after, because I graduated in 1985. My school song was "We Are the World."
And we are the children.
My class song was "We Are the World, We Are the Children," honey. So I graduated, my poor grandmother, taking in this like closeted gay, you know, teenager who like, I was just always exploring and questioning and, you know, doing a lot of things that she just did. You know, I'd stay out late trying to go do stuff. And I just drove that poor woman crazy, basically, for those 2 years that I lived with her. And she was like, okay, you've graduated. You have a good amount of money that you can take care of yourself with, go to school, do whatever you want to do. So you have got to do something, though, because you're no longer going to stay here. So I was like, well, I want to go visit my cousin who I lived with in Africa, who lived now in Seattle, Washington. So during this whole time, he has moved from Africa to Seattle, Washington. So my grandma was like, cool. And, you know, go see what you think. And if there's a school out there you want to enroll in, do that. So I did. And I enrolled in Seattle Central Community College. And I was living with him for a while. And then in the process of living with him, like, it was fun, but I wanted to see more. I wanted to know more. So we lived very near Broadway in Seattle, Washington. And, you know, that's where all the kids hung out. Like, it was like a giant, like, people shopping, you know, up and down, walking. There was a giant park at the end of Broadway. Like, if you walk down Broadway, there was a humongous park, which was beautiful. But all the punk rock kids and everything used to hang out in front of Baskin Robbins. Baskin Robbins had this giant parking lot, and bordering the parking lot was like this, like 3-foot, 4-foot wall that went all the way around, like down the front of Broadway on the sidewalk, and then down the side. And punk rock kids used to hang all the way down. And I was fascinated. Fascinated. So I used to walk by every day, you know, looking. One day, this girl, her name was Michael. Everyone called her Girl Michael. She saw me and she's like, hey, come over here. She's like, I've been watching you walk by like for weeks now. She was like, come hang out with us. So I was like, okay, cool. So I hung out with them, and I got to hanging out, and I got pretty comfortable and everything. And then one day, like a couple weeks down the road, Girl Michael was like, so are you gay, straight, bi? What are you? And I was like, oh, and just left. I just was like taken aback and left because I just didn't know it was a thing, you know? I didn't know that was something. I knew that was something you could be, having lived in North Carolina, but I had never been confronted like that, so spot on, you know?
So bluntly.
You know, the gay kids never asked me that. when I was in high school. They never asked me that. No one had ever confronted me that way. And I was shocked, and I took off. And then went home and like fretted about it. And so I was like, you know what? Ding, ding, ding. Yes, I am gay. I mean, what the hell? Who do I have to worry about now? I live myself. I pay my own rent. I'm good. Why do I have to even worry about it? I am gay. So I couldn't wait to get to her the next day. And I was like, guess what, girl? Yes, I am. I am gay. And she was like, oh, I thought you were. That's awesome. Blah, 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 blah. She was like, so I'm going to introduce you to all my gay friends, everything. So suddenly I had this giant network of gay friends there in Seattle, you know, and it was great.
What about, you had told me a wonderful story about a letter that your grandmother had written your mother.
Oh, coming out. Oh, that's right. So maybe the next summer or so, I went home back to North Carolina to visit. Mm-hmm. And I was all revved up to tell my family, yes, I am gay. Ta-da, I'm gay. And I told my grandmother, I said, after dinner, I'd like to talk to you. I have something important to talk to you about. And she's like, oh, okay. And we finished dinner. And then, you know, usually like we go hang out in her room and like we used to watch like Star Search or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we're sitting on her bed and she was like, what did you have to tell me? You better tell me before the show starts. And I was like, okay, it's not a big deal. It's just I wanted to tell you that I'm gay. And she was like, and I was like, what do you mean, and? I'm saying I'm gay. And she was like, you don't have AIDS, do you? And I was like, no, I'm not saying I have AIDS. I'm saying I'm gay. And she's like, oh, Mark, honey, we've known you were gay since you were a little boy. She was like, we've known you were gay. And I was like, what do you mean you've known I was gay? And she was like, hold on. And then she went and dug through some stuff and pulled out a letter that my mother had written her when I was probably about somewhere between 3 and 6, maybe I was.
That and your mother had written your grandmother.
My mother had written my grandmother saying, I think Mark's gay. What should I do? And, you know, she told me, I was like, what did you tell her? She was like, you told me, I told your mother that you're her child and she needs to love you anyway and let you be who you are. And, you know, don't let anybody like belittle him for being who he is, which is what my mother always did. And I was just like, why would you think that I had AIDS? And she was like, well, you know, I just couldn't think of what else you would tell me. I didn't think you were going to tell me you were gay. I thought you knew we knew. And I was like, no, I didn't know you knew. I was like, if I'd known you knew, do you know how much trouble we could have saved each other? And she was like, yeah, I guess so. We were just waiting for you to tell us when you were ready. And I was like, oh my God, you could have saved me so much trouble. So much angst, so much heartache. Yeah.
And what did it feel like to learn that all those years ago that your grandmother, that's what she had shared with your mother? That it has to be, what did that feel like?
Yeah, I was overcome with like joy and love and, you know, security in the fact that because my mother was always, always, always my champion. Like, you know, Ma, I want to dress up like a ballerina. She's like, okay, you know, here's the tutu, you know, like that was my mom, you know? So yeah, it was like, now it made complete sense why, you know, she was the way she was, you know?
That is so powerful.
It was so powerful. I was so completely blessed, so blessed to have the mother and grandmother that I did, the family that I did, you know?
And what a simple thing is it to allow your child to be who they are. It's as simple as that.
I mean, it was probably not simple for her because of dealing with my stepfather, who just wasn't into it. You know, he didn't feel the same way. Nigerian culture is extremely machismo, like macho, macho, macho. Like, if there's 4 guys and a girl in the room and the dishes need to be done, it's the girl who's going to go do the dishes. That's like their culture. So, you know, a boy dressing up like a girl or, you know, playing with dolls and not going outside and playing kung fu or kicking a soccer ball around, that's not really acceptable. So I'm sure for her it was very rough, like having to deal with him, but she did. Like, she was taking no prisoners. Like, this is who he is. This is going to be who he is. You know, leave him be.
And this is silly to say on a podcast where it's just audio, but that leaves me speechless. I think that's your mother was a very brave and honorable person.
I mean, she was truly brave to move her family from the comfort of everything she knew to Africa was super brave.
Yeah.
Because it is a different world there. Yeah.
And so now you are out to your family, you have a circle of gay friends. How did this parlay into your career as a drag queen? And maybe the best place for us to start is for those of people who might be listening who might not know what drag is or might be confused about what drag is. Can you define drag for us as if I was somebody who have never seen or heard the word in my life?
Okay. Drag, being a drag queen, is a man dressing up and portraying the traits of a woman. Drag that's the basic, I think the basic explanation of drag. It is the art of looking like a woman.
And
a man looking like a woman.
Does that mean that also drag is maybe a woman who gets up in some men looking drag?
Of course. There's definitely female drag, which is what the guys do, and male drag, which is what the women do, you know? So yeah, drag is dressing up as the opposite sex, let's say then, and giving a portrayal of the opposite sex. Yeah.
As means to perform, right?
As a means to perform sometimes just as a means to be and enjoy doing that. You know?
As a means to be, a form of self-expression.
Yes, definitely. A form of self-expression, but generally portraying the opposite sex than you are.
And I'm of the generation that grew up, well, not grew up, I'm a little bit older than that, but as an adolescent, I was able to turn on my TV and see drag on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, you're
whatever
so
it might
lucky.
be. Oh my gosh, immeasurable.
What would it have been like if I could have grown up with that? That would have been something else. Yeah.
And so that's how I first kind of learned what drag was. And then going out into the community and seeing drag, something that hard, and I'm interested to hear what you think about this, something that I had to learn was that for some queens or kings, the goal for them is to not exactly look like the opposite gender, but just to look like a fabulous creature of their own imagination. Is that a fair assumption? Is that a fair assessment?
That is definitely a fair assessment. I mean, for me, for my generation, that was what drag was. Drag has transformed and transmuted, and there's genres and so much more. The world like of drag is like bust way wide open, you know? There's bio queens, which I would have thought was a ridiculous thing, but it's not. It's like, you know, women come to my show all the time and they say, God, I wish I was a drag queen. Well, now, baby, you sure can be. All you got to do is put on the lashes, put on the heels, put on the everything.
Nails.
The nails, all that stuff. You too can be a drag queen. Like, at this point, you know, with the advent of the bio queen, we could easily say that Dolly Parton is a drag queen.
Oh my gosh, she is.
Because I mean, she does all the things we do to get ready, you know? She wears the same sky-high heels, gigantic wigs, humongous body, and flashy. Yeah, so, you know, Dolly Parton, you could easily be defined as a drag queen. I mean, that's how far wide the bubble has been opened, you know, popped. So when I started out, drag was looking and portraying a woman for a man.
This idea of
for a woman.
This idea of realness, right? Like, I'm a real woman and I look like a real woman, and that's the gag of it, if you will.
Yes, I mean, that was basically, I came out doing drag in this Detroit metro area.
And is that where you first got into drag?
Yes.
And what was here. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, after I left Seattle in '89 and I moved to Ann Arbor. I was right back here in Ann Arbor. My grandmother was like, you know, if you want to move somewhere, you should think about Ann Arbor, Michigan. Your mother always loved it. Maybe you'll love it too. And she was completely right. I moved here and I absolutely loved it. And I used to go out with my friend Rory Warren, and we would go to different shows at different clubs and stuff. There were lots and lots of thriving gay clubs at the time. And we used to go to all the drag shows. You know, the drag shows were some of our favorite things. But I would always be so critical. Like, we'd stand together and we'd be like, oh, look at her shoes. What does she think about those shoes? Why would she put those on? What's going on with her hair? Why did she pick this music, you know? So I would always be super critical because I loved it so much. I'd be super critical. One day, Rory leaned over to me and he was like, hey, if you think you so bad, why don't you try doing it? He was like, why don't you try doing it? I was like, oh, no, I could never be a drag queen. That's just not me. No way. And he was like, I'll dare you to try it. And if you do try it, I'll take you on a shopping spree. And I was like, oh, shopping? I love shopping. So he bought us all the stuff. And it wasn't just me. It was myself and my friend Chucky. We both started at the same time. And he bought us makeup and bought our outfits and shoes and all this stuff. And then we got in touch with Lisa Carlisle, who was the hostess at Nectarine Ballroom at the time. And we said, you know, Lisa, we would like to come and do the show. And she was like, yeah, honey, and gave us a date. And so we went back and started practicing our makeup and getting our numbers together. And we came back to the Nectarine and did our numbers and, you know, did our thing. And that was 31 years ago. And I'm still doing it.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Now, talk a little bit about what it felt like to get into drag and to get on that stage for the first time. What does that feel like?
It was terrifying. I mean, I was fully prepared, and I mean, I had the feeling, I knew that I would do well. I mean, I had practiced everything. It was in my, you know, muscle memory kind of thing. But getting out in front of that crowd for the first time, and especially homosexuals who are like super critical, you know, because I had been in the audience talking shit about the girls on stage. So now here I am about to hit the stage knowing that these sissies are going to talk about me that way. And I would deserve every minute of it.
Ooh.
So I was terrified the first time, but you know, you just do the things that you need to do to calm your nerves, i.e. drink a lot. I
I'm familiar.
I sucked down some liquid courage and got out
Yep.
there and did what I had to do. And it was amazing. Once I heard that applause and all that, I was more than excited, and I've been doing it ever since. Yeah.
You were hooked.
Yeah, I was definitely hooked. And my
And-
friend Rory knew what he was doing.
Oh,
He knew what he was up to.
your friend Rory had a plan. He was going to manage
He had
the
a
girls.
plan. He had a plan. Because he loved drag, and he loved drag queens. And he knew, by the way I talked about it, that I was in the game to, you know, I wanted to do it. Yeah. But he had to give me that last little push.
And I am dying to know, what song did you perform?
My very first song I did on stage was Finally by CeCe Peniston.
You had told me that. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, what an incredible! That's like the best. Like drag legend. Like that's drag music right there. You know.
That is. The 90s had a lot of great drag music.
Mm-hmm.
And Finally was the hottest thing on the charts at the time. So I was like, I'm going to do that. And people loved it. Yeah.
And you had brought up the Nectarine Ballroom, which I just want, for people of a younger generation, that's what we now call Necto.
The Necto, yeah.
Yep. I had heard stories. I worked in a cafeteria with a woman who we got on very well, and she started telling me about what the Nectarine Ballroom was like back in the day. And I wanted to hear a little bit from you about what kind of is the gay scene in Ann Arbor like? What is the club scene? Set that stage for us.
You mean at the time when I started doing drag?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, there was a very large, very close gay scene. Even if, you know, it was back in the day when things were a little bit more cliquey, like there were cliques. So things were a lot more cliquey then, but even though you weren't in someone's clique, you knew who they were. I mean, that's how we knew everybody, was by the club. We did not have the interwebs. We did not have, you know, the communicate. We didn't have cell phones like we have now. So that's how you knew people. And that's, you know, by going to the club. And so Ann Arbor had a very large, robust gay scene back in those days. You know, as I'm sure they still do, but everybody's like so much more isolated now. They don't have to go to the clubs now. You know what I'm saying? Back then, if we wanted to get to see people or know what was going on, you had to go to the club. So, you know, go to the club we did.
Well, I feel like those places, I love the gay bar. I love going to drag shows. I love going to the club. Those places just don't exist anymore, especially in Ann Arbor.
They don't, because, you know, the nature of, you know, our gayness now is, you know, you can open up and go on Scruff or go on Grindr, and you don't have to, you know, back then, that's where we knew we could meet somebody to like be with, or, you know, at least have a night with, you know, or whatever. Now you don't even have to do that. So the kids don't go to the clubs like that, and therefore the clubs aren't sustained, and that's why they're all closing down.
It's just heartbreaking.
You know? It is, but it's changed. And it's changed.
Just got to ride the wave of change, right?
You've got to ride the wave of change. I don't know why people have such a hard time with change. I embrace change.
I just want to, I don't know. I just want to hear some CeCe Peniston pumping on the loudspeakers, and I want to have, you know, a religious experience on the dance floor. That's what the club was for me, you know?
That's what the club was for a lot of us. It was dance, those aggressions out, dance, you know. You know, if there's fighting, you take it out on the dance floor, you know. That's how we did it, you know. Rather than actual fighting, you know, if you were having some kind of issue with one of your sisters, or, you know, y'all got on the dance floor and danced it out. Made the best woman win, honey.
I love it.
So,
I want that
yeah,
so bad.
but that's how you got to meet people. That's how you got to know people, by going out and going to the clubs. You don't have to do that as much anymore, and therefore that whole club culture is moving along, moving away. The Nectarine was an amazing club when I first went there. It was 3 floors. It wasn't just the 1 or 2 floor. It's kind of still 3 floors, except the whole thing was all combined. It wasn't like, you know how you walk in and you have to go downstairs through that hallway to the bathroom? Well, actually, the club was all the way down where the bathroom was.
And I could look up and I could see the other floors. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. The dance floor was where the entryway of the club is. You know, you walked into the club to the floor that the dance floor was on.
And
it was amazing.
Oh, it is amazing. And I understand that they had brought in all sorts of names like Sylvester, Taylor Dane, you had told me, which I would just
Divine.
Ah.
Yeah, Divine. We saw Divine there. We saw Book of Love. We saw, oh God, The Wizard used to spin every Friday night. You know, every Saturday night, The Wizard from Detroit radio would spin. It was just fantastic. You know, there was always some kind of something going on. I can't even remember all the names.
And were there other gay clubs or bars or
spaces? There was the Flame Bar, which I was the first and only Miss Flame, because they nominated me to be the queen of the bar, and then they wanted me to have a pageant the following year, but the following year the bar was closed. So I'm the eternal flame.
You are Miss current reigning from now until forever.
Yeah, the eternal flame. Except I won't live forever, so you know.
Something that we had talked about previously that really kind of resonated with me and made my brain oof. You had said that back in the day there was like a blue light district in Ann Arbor.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was. It was on 5th Avenue, in the block on the other side of Liberty from the bus station. It was that whole block was like Ann Arbor's blue light district. It had like porno bookshops and sex toy shops, and the hookers walk up and down the street. Yeah. It sure did.
And now we just have expensive restaurants.
Now you have way expensive restaurants, Ruth's Chris and things.
So at this point, you are Miss Eternal Flame. You've kind of found some grounding in the drag community, in the gay community. Talk a little bit about when you started the House of Chanel.
Oh, the House of Chanel started the same year. It started maybe a year before, but we hadn't like really brought it fully. It wasn't fully formed. In 1990, 1991 was my first performance at Nectarine on the stage there. And the House of Chanel started right around the same time. We were fully formed, 1991. We had several members, and, you know, basically we formed the house because we had all seen Paris is Burning, and we were like, we should have our own house. And, you know, we easily could. And, you know,
and what is a house? For those who might know, what is a house?
A house is a chosen family, basically. A lot of times with an emphasis on performance, you know, back in the day, voguing, you know, modeling, all that kind of thing, all that kind of stuff. And we used to do all that kind of stuff. You know, we would dance. We would dance at art fair. That was back when you could do that sort of thing. You didn't have to like book time on a stage. You could just go down to art fair and perform in the streets. And we used to do that, and we would do our voguing, and we'd have dance routines that we made up, and, you know, we just pass a hat and people put money in the hat.
Ah,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We used to model for what was his name? Oh my God. I'm blanking on his name, but there was a very big jeweler that worked in Ann Arbor, Matthew Hoffman.
okay.
Matthew Hoffman Jewelry. We used to model for them and do like pictures and, live shows wearing his jewelry. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
a house, you had said it's a chosen family.
It
So
is a chosen family.
so it's like a community, but also it's a community that makes art. It's like a
Exactly. Our emphasis of art, the art that we did was voguing, you know, um, but yeah, you make art. Like we would make our clothes sometimes, and yeah, do all kinds of crazy things. We were always like doing like somebody's student film, or modeling for Hoffman, or voguing in the streets. We were always doing something.
it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Now, has the House of Chanel ever had any maybe run-ins with local frat boys or something of the sort?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we were always having run-ins with like frat boys leaving like what did I call it? It's called whore keepers, but it's scorekeepers. But we called it whore keepers. And after the bar would let out, there would be like a full-fledged whole nother scene outside of the Necto when Necto would close. And so gay kids would be all in the streets talking, snapping, cutting up, still dancing. People would be playing music out of their cars and da da da. And then these boys would come from around the corner and think that they were about to start talking shit to us, like, calling us names and da da da. And we would be like, no, no, no. We're here to let you know that is no longer acceptable.
I am more likely to verbally accost Mike Tyson than I am a drag queen.
Oh, wow.
Because I drag queens.
I mean, and a lot of times this wasn't even, I wouldn't even be in drag at the time. This was just us, Whew. Yeah. So, I mean, this wasn't even when we'd be in drag, but there was a real funny time when Trixie Deluxe, who also started here in Ann Arbor.
Fantastic drag name.
Yeah, Trixie Deluxe. That's her name. She's fantastic herself.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you guys get a chance to talk to her.
Yeah.
That would be really great. She started right here in Ann Arbor. She knows a lot more of the history of like what we were doing back then. But she was standing out there and she was wearing this outfit that our friend Demetrius Argyropoulos, but he went by the drag name of Cherry America. So Trixie Deluxe was wearing this outfit he made, and it had these humongous torpedo tits. Like seriously, like they were built into the costume. Like you jumped right in the costume, and these torpedo tits. And hers actually had a mechanism where she could turn it on, and the ends of the tits would like smoke. No. Smoke would come out of her. And one night we were out there, and she was out there in drag, full drag, and wearing that costume, and it was a full circus, a full craziness circus. And these frat boys tried to get into a fight with us. And so, we're scrapping with them. One of the guys was carrying like two, 24 packs of beer. And he was holding those, and he set those down when the scrap started. And my friend ran around and took them back to our house. So when everything was over, we had a party at our house with their beer. Learned that. Yes.
How has COVID-19 played into the drag scene and your drag career?
Oh my God. It was so horrible at first because, we were working with I worked with the Boylesque drag troupe.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Boylesque. Mm-hmm.
Yep, shout out to Boylesque. And it was so crazy. It was like in one day, like all of our gigs for a year were canceled. Like it was just like people were just calling in, cancel. So suddenly we were like, well, what the hell are we going to do now? But Jaden, being very smart and on top of it, was like, girl, now we have to go online.
And this would be Jaden Black, right? Jaden Black?
Jaden Black, yeah. She was like, girl, we're going to do the same thing we do. We're just going to do it online. And so it's been a definitely learning curve, because you go from performing for people, hundreds of people in person, where you can like be cheeky with this guy over here or do something shocking to this woman over here. Suddenly you're doing it. It's you and a camera.
Yes.
And it was not fun at first, but we've learned. It's gotten better. We've learned.
It has that. Absolutely.
Go ahead. You can keep talking. I can hear you.
And has that changed? Are you at a place now with these COVID gigs? Are you enjoying them more, do you find, than you once had at the beginning?
I am crazy about, I like to perform for people.
Yes.
It's not been easy performing for, just the camera, but it's gotten better.
Before we move on, I want to know if you have any advice for any fledgling queens out there who might have used this COVID-19 time to get into baby drag.
Uh-oh. What did I do? Oh, there we go. Okay. I was like, Lord.
What advice do you have for baby queens, rookie queens?
Well, I mean, obviously hone your craft. If you're gonna be a showgirl, you definitely need to have a good show practiced and perfected. If you are going to be a look queen, you better have your look together. And I also want to say that while you think you're amazing in your living room, people outside of that are not going to think necessarily that you're amazing. So, you do want to learn from somebody who may not even be as skilled as you as far as makeup or making clothes or anything like that. But if they've been in the scene longer than you, you want to get with somebody that knows what they're doing.
And especially now that I could go on YouTube and look up how to do drag makeup, how to do drag hair. The internet could be my drag mother.
Well, no, not really, because the internet can't teach you the finesse of like calling a show director or, trying to get on stage or trying to get in with a club promoter or something like that. The internet can't teach you how to do that. So while you want to learn your stuff off of YouTube and be fabulous at it, you also need somebody that knows what they're doing to guide you along. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, that's what we had. Like, we didn't have really anybody to teach us makeup. We couldn't turn on YouTube and learn how to do flawless eyebrows and da-da-da. We had to just learn by trial and error, and we had to learn by watching somebody who already did their makeup and doing learning what they knew from them. So there's something to be said for having a mentor.
And I think a common misconception about drag, I call it like the Superman Clark Kent thing, right? Where you put on those glasses and you're Clark Kent, and you take them off and you're Superman. Is your drag identity all that different from your Mark identity?
Not really. Except Maxi is just much more dressed up, and dripping in jewels. But, really my personality is the same, outside of wearing all the clothes and the heels and the hair and the jewels. I'm pretty much the same person. Whereas I do know a lot of queens who are like totally different. Their drag persona is totally different than their regular everyday persona. I know a lot of girls that as soon as they get into drag, they turn into complete bitches. they turn into complete bitches. They're like nice people, and the minute they put their drag on, they're just like evil.
That's too bad. I kind of, even though it does make me giggle.
Yeah, it's funny. It makes me giggle too.
What is the Maxi Chanel experience?
Oh, the Maxi Chanel experience is you're going to get a great show. You're going to get a wonderful performance. And I'm a fun-loving, easygoing queen. Like, I'm very rarely bitchy.
Well,
you're going to...
Well, I've seen you in the clubs, and I'm that person walking around like, oh, girl, you look so beautiful tonight. And, ooh, this. And anytime I've ever seen you, no matter how annoying or stinky or whatever I might be, you were always so kind and gracious.
Well, it's easy to do. I mean, I would rather be nice. It's easier to be nice than it is to be evil or
Say that again.
So
I do.
I mean, you're gonna get, when you see Maxi, you're gonna have a fun time and you're gonna get a great show. And hopefully
every time.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, baby.
Well, see, I can't even stop myself. I'm like, here's another compliment. Well, I know how much Washtenaw County is better for having you live in it and perform in it. So thank you for that.
Oh, I love it here. So glad to be here.
Now, I like to, I've asked every one of the people I've interviewed so far, like a short kind of speed round kind of list of questions.
Okay.
Let me pull up my dang document here. So I'm just going to ask you kind of like quick, funny, silly little questions.
Okay.
Okay, so A Star is Born, Judy Garland, Barbara Streisand, Lady Gaga.
Oh, honey, Judy Garland.
Mm. What is the biggest what is the biggest difference between younger and older LGBTQ people?
Years. I guess the years they've lived.
Yeah. I love that answer. What's the one piece of advice you would give younger members of the LGBTQ community?
Stop being so damn full of yourself.
Boop. What?
But on a side note,
mm-hmm.
I definitely applaud them being so full of themselves. Secretly, I'm like, oh my God, I wish that I'd had that kind of fucking confidence when I was their age. But at the same time, it's fucking annoying.
I hear you. What do you feel about younger people using the word queer?
It's cool because, identify, all these identifiers are like very important. And if like, you don't picture yourself as this or picture yourself as that, and you're just queer, then hey, that's you. Do you?
Yep. Growing up, did you have a gay icon?
Oh my God, so many. I had so many. And I mean, at the time, I didn't know that that's what they were.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I would kill somebody if they touched the remote control when I was watching the Cher show.
Yeah.
Oh, I would go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I was insane about Tina Turner. I loved her so much. Judy Garland, in anything she was in, was like amazing to me. I had so many. I could just go on and on and on. But yeah, I had tons of gay icons.
And can you put your finger on why we love those women or we love those people so much?
I mean, because they embody most of every sassy, sophisticated, glamorous, you know, talented, you know, it's all the things that we are. So we appreciate it.
Well, perfectly put. I couldn't agree more. What stereotypes about LGBTQ folks bother you the most?
That we're out to get your man, or we're gonna, like, you know, molest your child. It's so annoying. It's so that we should be so far past that at this point, but it still exists. It still exists. And it's real. That's like the one thing that's annoying to me, because to be pictured like that by somebody is so annoying. It's so bad.
Yes.
Because most of us are the furthest thing from that. I'm not saying that it does not exist, but most of us, the majority of us, are the furthest thing from that. So
it's
that's
the expectation. It's the expectation that gay people are somehow predatory.
Yes, I hate that.
Me too. It drives me up. Like, I go from 0 to 100. You know, like I'm not able to be like, if somebody. At any rate, have you ever used a dating site or app?
I have not.
Betty Davis or Joan Crawford?
How dare you, Betty Davis?
Thank you. Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh my gosh. My first celebrity crush was a gentleman that was the lion tamer for Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. His name was Gunther Gable Williams, and he wore the tightest white pants and had the biggest package. And I was in love with him, honey, as a young queen. Yeah.
Shout out to Gunther.
Yeah, Gunther Gable Williams. Google him.
What was your best Halloween costume?
Oh, God. The best Halloween costume, I think, for me, was one year I dressed up as Winnie Mandela. And everybody was like, who are you supposed to be? And then when I would tell them who I was, they would just crack up. And I was in the contest and at Necto, and I came super close. I'm not sure if I did win or if I came close to winning. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, that was during, you know, all of that time, and she was very much in the news. Yeah, but I was just dressed like an African woman, and everybody's like, who are you supposed to be? And I'm like, I'm Winnie Mandela. And they're like, oh my God, you are. Yeah.
What makes you happy?
Oh my God. Everything. A lot of things make me happy. Good food.
Yes.
Shopping. New shoes. You know, the love of my friends and getting together with my friends, and, you know, being pain-free. Because, you know, as I've gotten older, you know, things are starting to hurt a lot. I'm having a lot of, you know, problems, physical problems. So on days when I don't have those, I'm extremely happy.
Amen.
And they happen.
What gives you hope?
Right now, it's hard to have hope right now, but I like to stay optimistic, and I know that the young generation, these young kids we're talking about, that have all of this positive self-image, and you know, they're gonna hopefully pull us through this thing. So the youth of the world, give me hope.
I believe the children are the future.
They are. We have no choice but to believe that.
Yep.
But, you know, I see my little cousins and nieces and nephews, and I'm like, I think we're going to be okay, because these kids are not playing.
What's the best age?
The best age? Oh, my God. I don't know. I mean, any age that you're above ground breathing is a good age.
I hear that.
I don't know. I enjoyed, you know, for my 40s. Once I hit my 40s, I was pretty like, this is me. I know what I want. I know what I'm not fucking with, you know. Yeah. So I felt pretty good. And yeah, like set, when I hit my 40s, I was no longer questioning things so much. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. So I'm going to say 40s.
Yeah, you get to have dinner with 3 people alive or dead. Who are they?
Oh my God. 3 people alive or dead to have dinner with. I'm going to go with, let's say Michael Jackson,
Yep.
Princess Di,
Yep.
and Aretha Franklin.
Ah.
They're all dead.
What part of aging has brought you the most joy?
What part of what?
Aging.
Well, what I just told you is like when I hit my 40s, I was very confident in who I was, who I am. You know what I'm saying? So when I hit my 40s, I was like, suddenly it was like, shades came off my eyes and I just saw like people that I don't want to deal with, things that I don't want to deal with, things that I gravitate toward. I knew who I was. So that was definitely my favorite section of aging, 40s.
And do you have, for the Drag Race fans out there, are there a drag race queen that you particularly like? Do you have a favorite?
Oh God, so many of those girls are so good. I really, really got along well with Shangela and Shea Coulee.
So you had met them?
I've met both of them, and Shangela and Shea were both like super cool. Like it was like we had been sisters for years. Like not that I just met them, we've known each other, I think Aquaria is really beautiful and super talented. I love Katya. I love, who is the queen that does all of the burlesque stuff? I live for her.
Violet Chachki.
Violet Chachki is the shit. Yeah. So, I mean, oh my God. So many of them are so great. Like, Evie Oddly is amazing.
What if you could ask me any question, what would it be?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't expecting to have to interview you. What do you think? What gives you hope? You tell me that.
I think, like you said, it's a day by day thing. Sometimes I don't have hope.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that's a rough question.
I know, and I'm the one.
Especially in these COVID times, it's like real hard to have hope.
I think that Gen Z. If I understand Gen Z right, these are kids who are like late middle school, early high school, and working in schools, seeing how they treated each other with respect that I didn't see growing up in my high school. Like their acceptance, like their understanding and acceptance of race issues and sexuality and class issues. To see young people talk about those things in the way that I was able to see them talk about them gave me a lot of hope. But also, I think
that's good.
I think also I find a lot of hope in my relationships with my friends and family. It's like, well, no matter what, hey, I got these people riding, and we're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna support each other, and we're gonna love each other. And that's how we're going to ride out.
Exactly.
And if we have to ride out into the apocalypse, that's what we're doing.
Well, I mean, what you just said gave me a lot of hope because, see, you've been in the school system more recently than I ever have. I was talking about, school in North Carolina and how I hope, that all those attitudes have changed. And you're telling me now that they have. So that is definitely giving me a lot of hope right now. So that's fantastic.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us and being willing to share these parts of your life. I can't tell you how much it means to me and how much it means to others as well.
Well, baby, I thank you so much, and thank you for always being so nice whenever we see each other and giving me all those fabulous compliments. I appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you to the Ann Arbor District Library for taking down my story, because I would love my story to be heard. So thank you guys for that.
Of course, you're so welcome. We want to give a special shout out to Maxi Chanel and the Boylesque Drag Troupe. To keep up with their events, be sure to follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/boylesque.michigan. Again, that is facebook.com/boylesque.michigan.